Today is March the 8th of 2023. And today we're here with Don Tipps, who's running for Amarillo City Council Place 2. Don, welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Dan.
So why are you running for City Council, Don?
Well, I'm a lifetime resident of Amarillo, born and raised here. Went to put myself through Amarillo College and then WT. I had 4 kids. I didn't have 4 kids. My wife had 4 kids, but raised 4 children here. So lifetime resident. I'm a business owner, property investor here in the city, and it's just time for me to start to stand up, get off the sidelines, and help lead and guide our city. So I just feel called to do it. It's just time for me to step up. My kids are grown. I spent my time raising my kids and coaching and doing all those things. And now that my youngest is 21 years old, it's freed me up to give back to the city and, help lead.
Very good. So why did you choose Place 2?
Well, honestly, I looked at the landscape. Of course, it's changed a lot, because we didn't know who was going to be running at the time, who was going to run for re-election or try to maintain their seat or just all the things, right? We had a lot of candidates entering. When I chose to enter, Frida Powell was at 2, and I thought that's, I just wanted to run in Place 2. I looked at that time, Cole Stanley was going to be at 1, and saw the other people in 3 and 4, and I just thought Place 2 would be a good spot to sit in there and help. So Place 2 is mainly who was running, and at the time, Frida Powell was running. So that's who I chose to run against.
Very good. So what do you think are the 3 or 4 main issues that face the city?
Well, I love this question, Dan, but I also kind of dislike it. We can all say we've got lots of issues that face the city. One, I think, is the division that I think the current council has created, or the mistrust, I think. I'm not saying they've done a bad job. I think they've done a lot of good things, for sure. But I think with this Civic Center issue that came up, it created a lot of mistrust with the citizens and the council. And I don't think that's good. So, I think that's a big thing that we need to step up and make sure the citizens are heard, and that we are truly working for the citizen. All the other issues, they are all major issues. We have infrastructure problems, our roads, our sewer, our water, all those things. We've got to take care of what we have, but we also have to figure out how do we grow, and there's, I sat in a budget meeting today, and I've sat with Laura Stores, trying to educate myself on this. It's a big balancing game is what it is. So it's a big balance game. So infrastructure is a big deal. Public safety is a big thing, for our city. Crime is on its way up. The other day, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, had shots fired at PD and a student was hit. So many things going on in our city. I love Amarillo. Amarillo's great. It's a great place to raise a family. And we need to maintain that. We got to keep it there. So public safety is a big deal. And then just making the city easier to do business with. I think the city needs to be a partner with business owners and not a hurdle. So I think we need to change the culture a little bit of City Hall and the departments to say, how can we come alongside the business owners and help grow the city and again, not be difficult to deal with. So again, there's lots of issues, but I think those are the main ones that I'm stepping up for. And I think probably the biggest is just to maintain our conservative values for this area. There's a lot of things that are seeping in. Like I said, we live in a great place. I think, it might not be the greatest scenery in the world, but it's the greatest people. And we have a great place, and I think we need to maintain that. And we need people on watch to say, we're going to maintain the way our city was founded and keep it that way. It's for our kids and our grandkids.
Well, I'm wondering, how do you think this culture seeped into the city government of Amarillo?
Well, I think just special interests. I think there's, people that have interest in the city. A lot of times, monetarily, economically, that there's anytime a city makes a decision to do things, there's some people benefit from it. And I think that sometimes it might be difficult for some to take a stand and just say, I guess we can see a lot of politicians, I'm not going to say all, a lot of politicians lose sight of who they're there for, which is the people. And I don't care on what level it is. And I think that that's what's happened, is that's kind of seeped in a little bit. And I think some left-leaning issues in just our departments and libraries, and I mean just all kinds of things that I think it's just kind of gotten in. And I think it's just more people get complacent maybe, and I don't know about lazy is the right word, but maybe a little bit complacent of forgetting why they are where they are and who they represent.
Yeah, I think it's the natural order of things to happen.
Yeah.
When people become complacent, then evil seeps in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And what's really bad is if things are going along okay, apathy seeps in and people don't show up and do their civic duty.
Yeah.
And then pretty soon we have a council that's controlled and is beholden to certain interests. And it happens at every county, every city, at the state level, at the federal level. It's just human nature.
Yeah.
So but this goes on throughout history, and then it gets bad, and then people wake up, and then they scramble, and they come to the rescue, and we straighten it out, and then everything goes really good for a while, and then the same thing starts to happen in the next 20 years.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a process, right? I just think it's the cycle of everything.
Yeah. And my hope is that, just like you said, that we're on the other side of that cycle now, that hopefully citizens of Amarillo have woken up and said, you know what, I am going to vote. Maybe my hope is that we'll have a lot of first-time voters, or a lot of voters that maybe hadn't voted in the last, 3, 4, 5 elections, that come out and say, I want my voice heard. I want to exercise my civic duty and help the city, and I want to educate myself. I want to find out. That's why I love things like this that you're doing. So appreciative of that, because I think the most important thing is educating yourself on the client, or on the candidate, but more than educating yourself, knowing them. Judge their fruits. Look at their life and decide, is that the person that I want making the decisions to guide our city? Because every candidate can sit in this chair, right? And we can all list the major issues of the city,
sure,
right? We're going to say transparency in the infrastructure and public safety. I can't imagine any of them not saying that, right? Because those are major issues. But those are easy words to say, right? We can all say that. But my thing is, know the candidate, check them out, do your research, reach out to them. We're all very accessible. Call them. Instant message them. We've all got websites. We've got the ways to contact us. And if you have a question, ask. Find out about that person before. Go vote for sure, but then decide who you're voting for, and know the person that you're going to put in charge of our city.
Yeah. What I tell people is, be informed. But if you're not, skip the race if you don't know anybody in it and you haven't decided, because it's not fair to the informed people if you make a guess.
Right.
And there's a lot of races, and not everybody has time to vet and understand who all of them are. And there's nothing wrong with skipping a race if you're not comfortable making a decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want people to understand that. So what we're trying to do here is get the voters to see who you are, and we want them to decide on who do they think is going to make good decisions for them.
Yes.
That most aligns with their way of thinking.
Right.
People with good judgment.
Yeah. And Dan, I want people to understand, and very few people do, simply because they just don't know, right? It's never been explained this way, Amarillo is a $500 million business. That's what it is. It's a $500 million business. It is. And we all have vested interest in it, right? But all the citizens are shareholders in that business by our taxes. We pay, that's our revenue that the city operates on. So the citizens are on top, and then they're electing 5 board of directors.
That's right.
That's what they're doing. So we are the 4 council members and the mayor. We are just a board of directors is what we are. And then we have our CEO, who is the city manager, that we will make decisions and make policy decisions and pass it down for that person then to execute, through the cities, through City Hall and all the departments, that type of deal. So if people will understand, and again, that's where we said losing sight, the citizens are the shareholders. They hold the power. And that's one thing that we have to realize. But then for them to know, you're electing a board of directors. That's all it is. It's not difficult. That's basically all it is. You're electing a board of directors to run this business, this $500 million business called Amarillo. That's what you're doing. So you want to put those people that you can trust to make the decisions to guide this business that will carry it on. They'll help it grow, to prosper, but then to take care of all the other things that we have, take care of the existing, infrastructure, the existing parks, the existing streets, like all the things, but yet help it to continue to go. And it's not easy. It's not easy. We all have, dealing with that budget is not an easy thing.
Well, I think the other thing that what I hear from voters is they don't think the city should be in business.
Right. I would agree with that.
They shouldn't be in the real estate business.
Right.
Or any other business.
Correct.
The business of government is to not be in business. It's
Correct.
to provide for the services of the community, the basic, the police, the fire, the water, the sewer, the trash.
Yep.
And that's basically it.
Yeah. Provide the needs of the community.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for, is not to get involved and not to,
and plan for
create
growth.
Yeah, plan for growth. Yeah. And make it easy to do business with, to attract people that they want to come here and open up businesses and the businesses that we want here, that are like-minded, and to help it grow. And then that creates more revenue for us to do the same thing. It's pretty simple. It's not easy, but it's simple.
Well, and there's a lot of ways they could save money, I'm sure. I haven't looked at the budget, but I think most any business person could say, why are we spending all this money here when we could easily sub that out?
Yeah.
Or not have to maintain all that equipment or whatever it might be.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that sounds pretty simple. I mean, it could be done. But for some reason, most bureaucracies have to grow, they think. But to me, with technology today, you should be getting so much more efficiencies all across the board that you should be able to operate cheaper with fewer people.
Yeah.
Not always more.
Yeah.
Because city of Amarillo is not growing.
Yeah.
It's growing outside.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're adding too many utility connections, are we?
Right. No, not right now. And you're right. Most of the growth, which there's some in North Amarillo, but then the most of it's in Southwest Amarillo, which, like you said, it's outside of the city, unless the city decides to, annex those neighborhoods or whatever. But there's a lot that goes into that as well. Because then you're looking at, can we supply the water? Can we, then we have the infrastructure to take care of. Yeah, it's more tax revenue that we can get, but I mean, you've got to look at that and say, is it worth it?
Then you got to have more police, more fire,
exactly
because they have to provide all services.
That's exactly
if
right.
they annex it.
Yes,
but I've had discussions with them. Why wouldn't? Of course, I was told the reason they wouldn't do it, of course, is because it was against the city charter. Because I said, why don't you run these water lines out here to pick up these communities and give them water meters, so they don't have to drill wells?
Yeah.
That would add value to the properties for the developers, it would make revenue for the city because it's not really that expensive to run a water line.
Yeah.
Sewer's different, but you don't need to provide sewer. The average homeowner, they don't have a problem with a septic.
Yeah.
Septics are simple. There's
Sure.
very little maintenance, if any, to them for 20, 30 years if they're put in right. But a well instills fear in a buyer because most people haven't grown up with wells.
Right.
They don't understand how they work. They don't know what they're scared if something happens, it's going to cost them a lot of money to fix it. And they're right. Lightning strikes it. You got to put a new pump. You got to pull the well.
Right.
You got to put a pump on, several
Yep.
$1,000s. But so why not change the city charter to where the city could use the resource that it has, because you're not saving water by everybody poking holes in our aquifer.
Yeah. Right.
I'd rather have one hole than 1,000
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
and raise revenue. They could bring in a lot of revenue just selling water.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. And, then the fees that are in there for the trash and, all the things that are in there that does help offset that, which is not a bad thing. It's all feasibility, right? They've got to look at it. It's all a business decision. We've got to look at how many houses there are, what revenues that, generate versus the expense of this. I mean, it's a number, but like you said, we've got police and fire. It means another fire station. We've got to start doing those things. So it is I agree with you 100%, but it is one of those things that you've really got to look at and see, because just like all of us, we all work with a budget. Like your household works with a budget, your businesses do, mine does, everybody out there does. If I want a new truck and I want to go buy that truck, I got to figure out how to do it. Like, how am I going to make that payment? Maybe I don't get to go out to eat as much. Maybe I don't get to do these things. I mean, there's a give and take, and the city's no different. It's like if we do these things, we've got to decide, okay, well, what do we have to give up? Because it's all a give and take. So I agree with you. I mean, I think it'd be great if we could grow the city, we could grow the revenue, but again, it's feasibility. Saying, okay, does this make sense? Like you said, septic, man, keep doing that. That's a great system.
To me, I just think that they could do some things to increase revenue that wouldn't cost a lot. They'd give a great return on the money.
Yeah.
And get rid of some of the stuff they're doing that is just outrageously expensive. Of course, I've had discussion on their brush sites. I know what all that equipment costs. I own all that stuff.
Yes.
And I set my own up for the contractors because they won't let them in, which I don't want to have to do it. But then they're paying for all this for no gain. Why don't they charge the people that use it?
Yeah, I agree.
They should pay for it.
Yeah, I think we do need to hammer down and look at, you brought up a point of, do we contract all these things out, or do we bring it in-house? And again, it's one of those things of,
well, you go through stages. There's a point in your city where it's cheaper to sub it out.
right.
Then it's cheaper to do it in-house.
Yep.
And then it's cheaper to sub it back out.
Yeah.
And I think we may be to that point.
Right.
And I don't know. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I would sub everything out that required all these employees and maintenance and equipment, because that's expensive to maintain and you have no control over those costs.
Yep.
Particularly if you're providing benefits.
Right.
Like health insurance.
Yep.
So why not just sub it out to a third party who can run much more efficiently than the city?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's their business, and they've got economies of scale that you don't have.
Right. And I would agree with you. And I think, again, it comes down to, and I think it's time to start looking at all that, right? We need to dig into those things and look at our existing third-party contracts that we already have. Is there any duplication? Do we have employees at the city that could maybe do some of these jobs? Or if we do we need those? I'm not saying that we need to make, cuts or anything like that. I'm just saying we need to look and see, how can we be more efficient? Look at our third-party contracts. Look at all these things and say, like you said, can we not get better and have, the economies of scale, through a contractor, or if we have somebody on staff, why can't they do this job that we're subbing out? Because it goes both ways.
Sure.
It's, is there some duplication there that we need to look at? And I think it's time to look at that. I think it really is time, because, again, the city needs money. I mean, it does. I mean, we need a lot. So we got to figure out, where are we going to get it? Nobody wants to, pay more in taxes. Nobody wants that, or additional fees or anything like that. So we've got to look at this and say, how can we be more efficient with the revenue that we have to do the things that we need to do?
I think most people, if it's a true need and and the city has, or whatever entity has shown that they are being prudent with the money, the citizens have no problem giving you more.
You are correct.
But when they see waste and they see inefficiencies and they go and have a bad experience with the city,
yes,
with a city employee, that's the problem.
Yes.
And that's when they say, I'm not paying any more in taxes because I don't believe it's being spent wisely.
Yep. And that's, like I said, I think that's why we start with looking at the budget and looking at the efficiencies. We have to, right, to be a good steward of what we have, exactly to your point. That way we can say, okay, we have done what we need to do. We've been a good steward of what we've been given, and let the citizens see that. And I think we just need to be more open with this, and have the discussions. I think city council needs to look different. I think we need to handle it different, and we need to have more discussions with citizens. And when they bring an issue, that we can actually discuss those things. But if we show ourselves, if we prove ourselves to be good stewards of what we have, like you said, if there's a need there, they're like, okay, I get it, because you know what? That council, I trust.
Yep.
And I don't mind doing a little more because we do need this. And it's all about communication.
That's right.
If we communicate, and it goes both ways, we need to hear from the citizens, and the citizens need to hear from us. I mean, that's just the way it has to work. Any good relationship, right? You can say your marriage, your friends, whatever, it's based on communication. And it's no different with a city council and the citizens. It takes both. But we need to hear from the citizens, and then the citizens need to hear from us. And we need to have that interaction and say, hey, we're going to do right by you. We're going to listen to you. We're going to hear you. And we're going to take action on what you've said. And then once we get that, to your point of, if we need more, they're like, you know what, I get it. I trust it. I trust that it's going to be used well. And I think that's where it has to start. We have to build back that trust.
Yeah.
And listen.
Well, and it's on every level of government,
Yes.
It's about having confidence in your government. And that's why most people want small government, efficient government. And if you're not vigilant, it's the natural order of things for that government to grow and get out of control.
Yeah.
And you see it at the federal level now.
Sure.
The state of Texas has done a reasonably good job, I think, of keeping it in check for the most part.
Yep.
There's a couple agencies that need to go, but by and large, I think they do a pretty good job.
Yeah, I would agree.
But then the county has done a pretty good job here of keeping it reasonable. But the city seems to be where the bloat is.
Yeah, yeah.
Because nobody's hasn't been really paying attention, I think.
Yeah. And I think, Dan, it comes from, for those of us that have been here for a long time, it's always been good, right? I mean, we didn't, just good old boy. I trust you. Give me a handshake. I trust you. I give me your word. I give you my word. We're good, right? And unfortunately, some of that's changed. Like you said before, how's this stuff seeping in, or why? I mean, it's that kind of thing of, hey, you've elected me to this position, then trust me, and let my actions show you, right? In order for trust to happen, you have to be trustworthy.
That's right.
So let me show you that I'm trustworthy, and let's build from there. And I think local government, like you said, I mean, we just keep expanding. It's so important that everybody would get out there. This is where you can make your voice heard more than any other election. Mm-hmm. Is this local? You don't get to meet, our senators very often. I mean, you might get to, but it's not on a personal level. You don't get to, you'll meet our representatives very often. If you try, you can, right? You make appointments, you can do those kinds of things, but it's more difficult. At the city level, get to know them. And then let your voice be heard by casting your vote. And then beyond that, communicate of what's going on. What are you happy with? What are you not happy with? What's going on? Let us know so we know the heartbeat of Amarillo. Because with 4 council members and a mayor, it's hard to keep up with all that. It is. There's only so many hours in a day. I think everybody that sits on council, They may be retired, and that's great, but some of them still have a job. We need that communication. We need to hear what's going on with the city.
Well, I think there's hope because we're going to have a totally new council.
Yes.
Everybody's going to be new.
Yep.
Right? Probably. Pretty good chance. And we have a lot, 23 different people?
Yeah, I think 22. I think one dropped out, but yeah.
So that's a lot. But that's great.
Oh, I love that.
That makes me feel really hopeful.
Yes.
That the people see how important their local community is, and they're willing to step up.
Yes.
And put themselves out there and run to represent the people. I think that's just phenomenal.
Oh, I do too. I think it's a great, I mean, even, I've, talked to people about, our individual races, and it's like, man, I love it. I love that people are waking up and saying, you know what, I want to make a difference. So much so I'm going to go beyond voting. I'm actually going to run. To me, that's a healthy community.
That's right.
Of people stepping up going, okay, I'm going to run because I want to have enough pride in my city, have enough pride to step up and represent my people. It's awesome. I think that's really good. I think it's a good sign.
Yeah, I do too. So to me, there will be no losers.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. So we're just going to have people that get elected, and that's the way it should work.
Yeah, I agree.
So do you have a website people can find you at?
I do. It's electdontips.com. Pretty simple. So electdontips.com. I can be found on Facebook as well, which is Don Tips for Amarillo City Council Place 2. And those are two areas that are easy. There's ways to get in contact with us, request a yard sign, communicate with me, whatever. I'm not so big that someone else is running that stuff. It's me. So, but yeah, that's a good way.
So you'll even go put the sign in their yard and visit with them if they want.
I have, and I've sat down and had coffee at a couple houses with individuals and done that. I'm not saying I have time to do that with everyone, but those that have asked so far that I've been able to accommodate that. So, because I think that's what it's all about.
And get your sign now.
Yes.
While it's early in the game.
Correct. Yes.
So, well, is there anything else you'd like to tell the voters before we wrap it up?
I think other than I think we've already hit it a couple times, is educate yourself, get to know the candidates, all of them, and get out and vote. And if you're not registered to vote, truly my hope is that we'll have a lot of first-time voters that haven't voted in the past, that have woken up and said, okay, I'm going to make a difference.
Do you know what that date is, the last day to register?
I don't know the last day to register, but we've still got some time. We do still have some time.
April 24th is when early voting starts, and I think it's the 6th.
April 16th.
Maybe it's the 6th. Well, it's going to be 30 days before the election, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
So basically, first week of May, I think. So, but you can go by our Potter County GOP headquarters. We're there all day. We've got people there, and Karen can register people to vote.
Karen's great. Yep.
And Randall or Potter County, we can register you if you're interested in getting registered.
Yeah, and that's what we want. So that's my encouragement to everybody is register, get out and vote, make your voice heard, take some time and get to know the candidates, then make an educated decision. And let's just partner together and let's change the city.
Sounds great.
Okay.
All right, Don, well, appreciate you coming in, and I'm sure we'll see you on some forums soon.
Absolutely. Dan, appreciate it. Appreciate everything that you do.
No problem.